Hello and welcome back to the Scoop with Coop. I'm of course Coop, and in today's video, I'm going to be going over the biggest winners and losers from Week 10 of the NFL season. And when looking at what makes a true winner or loser, in my opinion, I'm going to look at for the rest of the season, and so I'm not going to include injuries. I'm more so going to include things like whether or not there was a heartbreaking play at the end of the game, whether or not there was just bad coaching, whether or not there was any truly oh my goodness, what's going on type of things. So I'm not going to include injuries in that because I don't think that's really fair, right? Because obviously you can't really control injuries very much, and so that just wouldn't be fair to do. And whenever you look at winners, I'm going to include personal players as well. So, for example, I'm going to include Jonathan Taylor in here because he had a truly fantastic game. I'm going to include a team maybe like the Philadelphia Eagles, who come away with a big win in Green Bay over the Packers. So I think those are the type of things that I'm looking for when I think about a winner and a loser. And so without further ado, I know I've already mentioned his name, but Jonathan Taylor for the Colts. In Berlin, in a technical home game, even though, you're in Europe, you go in overtime, you rush for 244 yards and 3 touchdowns, and get the Colts a win pretty much. And, with this game, there are some things to take away, right? You're a bit nervous about Daniel Jones. You're a lot more nervous than you were last week, where you can just say, you know what? Oh, it's a fluke. We don't have to worry. He'll be back to normal. You're a little bit more nervous after seeing what happened in that game, where it's like you have the fumble, you have the pick, although the pick wasn't really that bad. But you have those turnovers. You have this kind of regression to where you're a little bit more nervous going forward about it, but I'm still confident in him. And I think that you have that confidence because of Jonathan Taylor in that running game. Because, again, 244 yards and 3 touchdowns, and I believe he had 40 receiving yards. So he was just a do-it-all back for them. And I know this won't happen because if Saquon Barkley didn't win MVP last year, I don't think a running back ever will. But I think that what Jonathan Taylor is putting on display right now is one of the best running back seasons of all time. So enjoy it. Because if you're looking at it, right, and you go on Instagram and you look up Jonathan Taylor, you will find a video of someone waking up and finding Jonathan Taylor at 50 fantasy points and realizing their week is over. That is the type of quality and dominance that we're seeing from Jonathan Taylor, so hats off to him for a truly fantastic performance. Looking at another winner, I think the Chicago Bears have to be up there, right? Because you go down early, right, and it doesn't look good because it's 10-20 going into the fourth quarter. Or sorry, it is 10-7 going into the fourth quarter, and that's whenever the Bears, oh my goodness, 17-10 going into the fourth quarter. That is whenever the Chicago Bears have historically struggled with things, is going into the fourth quarter. And you kind of escape this cloud of, oh, well, you know what, they haven't really had a great win or anything. But it's like, you know what, you beat a team in the Giants, which I talked about the Giants yesterday and last night when they fired Brian Daboll. But when you look at this Bears team in particular, you have Caleb Williams, and he's shown a ton of progression, right? He's improved a ton, I think. I think he's played much better this year than he did last year, although, it's second year compared to first year. It's much easier once you've had a year in the league to understand how things go. But you look and you see, you know what, this is a team that their culture seems to be good. They have 6 wins this year, and they're in a good position to make the playoffs. And I think that is so far beyond what, or at least my expectations for the Bears were this year. And so I think they are definitely a big winner of this week. Another winner of this week is a loser. The Cleveland Browns. They move up in the draft spot, and Dillon Gabriel didn't have a bad performance. So those are 2 things that you can ride home about, because it's like, you know what, if push comes to shove, you have a tiebreaker over the Jets, so you can get the number 1 pick if you want to go out and take a quarterback, whether or not that be Garrett Nussmeier, Fernando Mendoza, if you want to go with Dante Moore if he comes out. There are options, and you give yourself that flexibility, and I think that is something that is great for the Browns, and I think that's also why I think they're a winner. And then I think I'm going to do, we'll say maybe 3 more winners, right? Because I think there's only 3 true, main winners left in the game, left in this week. I think number 1, the large remaining, massive winner has got to be the Detroit Lions. With Dan Campbell calling plays, you go into Washington, you put up 44 points. Now, Jaden Daniels wasn't playing in that game, so that's something that you have to think about. But it's also, you're going into Washington, a team with a good defensive head coach, although he wasn't calling plays. But you go into Washington and you take control of that game, and you really never let it feel like there's any doubt, because this was a 25-10 game at half, and that just kind of put the nail in the coffin before it even really had to get too close. So I think that is great, where you're seeing this dominant team kind of come back and stay there with Dan Campbell calling plays, and now you know that you have two pretty good play callers for the Lions, even though, I mean, obviously if you have to make a play caller change, things aren't going well. But, I mean, if you look at this Lions team, they're 6-3, and I know that the Bears are also 6-3, but I do think this Lions team is much better than this Bears team. But, again, you get a win, and you show yourself to be a dominant team. Jahmyr Gibbs gets back on track. You get Jameson Williams more involved in the offense with 6 catches for 120 yards and a touchdown. And you have Jared Goff doing Jared Goff things. 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, good completion percentage, good advanced numbers, just good at everything. So I think that's a big win for the Detroit Lions. And then I think the last big winner of this week has got to be the Philadelphia Eagles defense. Because they go out at the deadline, right, and they go pick up Jair Alexander. They go pick up Michael Carter. They go trade a third-round pick for Jalen Phillips, and you go into Green Bay, and you allow 7 points defensively. That is fantastic for this Eagles team, because this is a team at points where it's felt like, they're allowing a lot of points, they're allowing teams to drive on them, and it's kind of like, I don't know, is this really the same thing that can contend for a Super Bowl? But then you go into Green Bay, and you have a performance where it's like, you make Jordan Love not look great. You're able to slow down the running game a decent amount. You kind of force bad turnovers from Jordan Love and this entire Packers team. And you're able to, up until the fourth quarter, make this a 3-0 ball game where you're shutting out the Packers. Now, again, it was 10-7. It wasn't like a 31-7 absolute blowout, but you're making a competitive game with what I think is a good team, although they don't play that great for some reason against teams. I don't know why. This year's NFL is weird, but you have a good team and you go into their stadium and you walk away with a win in prime time. Although, if you have YouTube TV, I'm sorry. But you make this team have to kind of bend to your will, and you put up a good defensive performance on a night when your offense isn't showing up. So I think that shows a ton of leaps forward for this Eagles team going up against the good team in the Packers, so I think they're also a big winner. Now, looking at the big losers, although I didn't do as many losers as I said I would do, but I think now this is whenever we get into the nitty-gritty of things. The big losers have got to be the Buffalo Bills. Because you go out and you beat KC, right? After the deadline, you don't want to make a receiver move, even though you tried trading for Jalen Waddle, but come on, it's a division rival. They're not going to trade him to you. So you go out and you try to make a receiver move and you strike out. And then you lose 30-13 to the Miami Dolphins, who are 2-7 at that point, who've lost to the Cleveland Browns. I mean, that is just inexcusable. And I know Josh Allen, if you look at the numbers, you know what, he actually played okay. This was not a good game from Josh Allen. He had a couple of turnovers where it's just like, you cannot afford to do this. And this was just a bad performance by the entire Bills team, and especially the Bills' run defense. 174 yards and 2 touchdowns for Devon Achane. I mean, this has been an issue for a few years now for the Bills, where it's like, you can't stop the run, so teams are going to do what? Run it on you. I mean, that's why Kansas City has beat you over and over and over again. It's because they've been able to run the ball down your throat. So I think this is just disheartening that we still haven't seen much progress for this Bills team in stopping the run and making Tua Tagovailoa able to win a football game. just completely inexcusable performance and truly abysmal for them. Another big loser that I want to point out is the Falcons whenever they took on the Colts. And this is just my personal opinion, right? But I think Michael Penix Jr. is a objectively bad quarterback. Because anytime that I see him out there, I don't have high expectations for him. I think, what's he going to do now? And find another weird way to miss a ball over the middle and just be late? I mean, even whenever the Colts were kind of looking like they were down and out of things, I had no doubt. I had no doubt that the Falcons were going to lose this game, and I had all the faith in the world that the Colts were going to win it. I think that there are so many problems with the Falcons, and also you look, they don't even have a first-round pick, and they are 3-6. They don't have a first-round pick for a team that needs talent, and they can't go get talent. I mean, this is just such a poor situation to be in. They have all the weapons on offense. I mean, you have Kyle Pitts, a guy who I think has been underutilized by this team, and I'm not the only one who thinks this. This is a very common thought, where you have a tight end you took number 4 overall who's super talented, and you just don't utilize him. You have a great receiver in Drake London. You don't utilize him. You have a great number 2 receiver in Darnell Mooney. You don't utilize him. You have 2 great running backs, the main running back being Bijan Robinson, who is at worst a top 5 running back in the NFL, and one of the best backup running backs in Tyler Algier, and you can't find a way to make a competent win? It's so frustrating seeing a team where it's like, you know what, and you can point out exactly what the issue is, and in my opinion, that's coaching. I don't think Raheem Morris is a great coach, and honestly, if they could go get a guy like Clint Kubiak, I think they would be much better off. So I think the Falcons, without a shadow of a doubt, when they took on the Colts, were the biggest loser of the week. Outside of the Bills, obviously. But then I think some other losers got to be the Carolina Panthers. I mean, it's like, I get you're 5-5, but, at home, you put up 7 points to, at the time, the 1-8 Saints. That's just not good enough, and, I don't know how you can feel like, yay, we made progress, we're 5-5, which, sure, that's better, but then you'll have losses like this where it's like, how? A team that's looking for stability at quarterback where they're making willy-nilly changes, and they go and kind of dominate you. I mean, I don't know how you can feel like, yay, in this game, because it's like, at the end of the first quarter, it was 3-7 for the Panthers, actually, and then nothing else happened the rest of the game. That's where you need to adapt. You didn't even get anything going in the second half, where you have the scripted plays. I mean, things just did not work out well for the Panthers, and that's why they're a big loser for this week. And then the other massive loser in this whole cycle has to be, without a shadow of a doubt, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Man, going into the fourth quarter, you're up 29-10, and you find a way to lose it 29-36 to Davis Mills. This Jacksonville team, while they're 5-4, and I think they have made leaps and bounds compared to where they were last year, similar to the Panthers, you just feel like there's another level that they could reach, and I think some of this, honestly, and I don't know if this is being hypercritical or not, I think some of that falls back on Trevor Lawrence. I don't think he's played up to the caliber that he's capable of playing of, but I also don't know if there's enough talent there. Because you get a guy like Brian Thomas Jr., okay, cool, whatever. Travis Hunter wasn't in the game. So it's like you don't have a ton of weapons there. I mean, you have Travis Etienne. I mean, and then other than that, who else? Brenton Strange? Byshal Tootin? There's just, Parker Washington. I mean, there's not a lot of talent there. So I think that plays a factor in it, sure. But whenever you get all of your things, you get all of your cylinders firing on offense, your defense just has a collapse and allows 26 in the fourth quarter. I mean, it is heartbreaking to see a team where, they've had opportunities throughout the entire season to maybe even get up to 7-2, and they've just wasted them. So I think they have to also be considered a big loser, and I think for the biggest winner of the week, I didn't mention them at the start, but I do think, looking at it honestly, the New England Patriots and Drake May, they are the big winners. They go into Tampa right now. Tampa's a bit hurt. And you go and get another win, and you advance to 8-2 and 5-0 on the road, showing to be one of the best teams in the NFL and having a young quarterback who is in MVP contention. I think that is, a great sign for this Patriots organization, even though, come on, you sucked for 5 years, but you won 6 rings, man. You couldn't wait a little bit longer before you stumble into a fantastic quarterback. Oh, and magically they got a fantastic running back in Travion Henderson with 14 carries for a measly 147 yards and 2 touchdowns. Why was Ramondre Stevenson getting the ball that many times if we know this guy was on the team? But I think they have to be the big winner of this, and that concludes today's video. This is The Scoop with Coop, and until next time, have a great day.